Purdue suffers another close loss, this time on senior day for Purdue in Mackey Arena, losing 97-93 to Wisconsin. We'll break down everything from the game and also senior night right here on Boilers in the Stands. Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Craig Bowers. Purdue, as said in the intro, loses 97-93, a game objectively an incredibly fun basketball game that was a lot of points. If you like defense, this was not the game for you, as both teams really just able to put the ball in the hoop time in and time out. It was senior night for Purdue. All five seniors were celebrated in Liam Murphy, Oscar Clough, and then obviously Trey Kaufman-Renn, Fletcher Lawyer, and Braden Smith. And we're going to break down all the game and go through everything. Don't get me wrong. But I think we both agreed kind of just wanting to start with reflecting on senior night and what this group of seniors, especially the big three, kind of have brought. So, Craig, I'll throw it to you first, just for your thoughts on senior night and that. And like I said, we'll get into the game after.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely was a special time to just, hear Matt Painter talk about that trio. Obviously, there's five seniors, but three of them that have been here for a longer period of time. They are going to leave, regardless of what they do in the postseason this year. Is one of, if not the most decorated group of a senior class that's ever come through Purdue. And when you add in the individual accolades, I don't really think there's much of a question that that's especially the case, but get Purdue to the national championship game, two Big Ten titles, one Big Ten tournament title. Braden Smith's fourth all time right now in terms of career assists in NCAA history. Fletcher Lawyer just broke the 3-point record in terms of career 3-pointers made for Purdue tonight. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, minutes played, games started, games consecutively played, points, rebounds, whatever. We can go down the list. Those three are littered all over the top 10 in Purdue history if you just go and look at career leaders. So, and I think it says a lot, too, if you just listen to him talk after the game in terms of the type of player that, Coach Painter recruits to this team. And, all those guys are that type of player in terms of guys that do it the right way, that do it with class, that put in hard work. I know there's been a lot of discussion about, roster construction, and does Matt Painter need to be able to get some guys that have a little bit different, maybe physical attributes than what's out there right now. But in terms of the type of people they are and the reason that they want to play basketball, the reason that they want to come to Purdue, and how they go about it, you just can't really ask for a better group than that. So kudos to them. It's been a heck of a 4 years to watch. Joe, we talk about this every year. But when we come into the first game in Mackey, it's like, you look and you got the entire season ahead, and you blink and you're walking into Mackey for the last time. I'm sure for those players, not only did this season feel that way, but I'm sure to some degree, that's the way it feels in their careers as well. And they're going to look back and hopefully have fond memories. They spoke very glowingly about all the fans and the support that they receive, and also the coaching staff too, obviously. But just an incredible trio of seniors, especially. And then, Clough has come in and provided a lot for this team. Obviously, Liam didn't work out probably the way that he wished, but from the sounds of things, he's continued to work and continue to help make the team better in practice.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously agree with everything that you said there. And just to add on, I think, especially being able to be here and being fortunate enough to be here in person to see it, it's just a reminder, right? I think we all get, especially like what we do, right? It's all social media and et cetera. Like, we love being able to do this show, and Twitter, and that can be a good place if you find the right people. But obviously, we all know kind of the toxicity that comes with it, and I would even say it's the minority of people, but they're very loud with that. And just being able to see this in person, it's just a reminder of, like, yeah, like, yes, you can be upset that they lost. Yes, you can want more from this team. This season was disappointing, whatever. And there's also acknowledging, right, if they win 4 games in a row in March, like, you're like, all right, that's still a pretty good season. If they win 6 games in March, nobody's ever going to say anything bad about this team for the rest of their lives. But it's just like, oh yeah, like, at the end of the day, these are really real people. Like, they are real people that come through, that give their time, their energy, the people, the families, obviously the coach staff and all that. Like, this I think especially in sports, it's this weird dynamic where like we can fall into the trap, especially like when the job is to like analyze, or as fans, like you just want you just want your team to win, like of forgetting the real human aspect of this. Like these are real people that go through everyday things just like us. Like they don't just appear on a court for 2 hours at a time and then do nothing with the rest of their lives or whatever. Like they got real stuff too going on. And again, that doesn't mean they're above criticism or anything like that. It's just kind of a reminder, like, okay, taking a step outside. Yes, there's a lot of, I don't know, some percentage of fans that are pretty bad in every fan base and make it no fun, but that doesn't mean that um, that's the majority, and that also doesn't mean that these players don't deserve to be honored and respected and cheered for, because like they give a lot to this team every single day, every single week. So for me, that was just the biggest thing. It was just kind of the reminder, like, oh yeah, like basketball is awesome. Like this is real human, like real people. Um, and it was just great, especially the big three, TKR, Fletch, Braden, like what they have done for these 4 years. We got to go cover a Final Four because of them, and obviously Edie, but like, um, like we got to go cover a Final Four. We've gotten to go to multiple different places. You went to like the Bahamas, I think, and different things like that. And it's in part because of the players, the coaching staff, all that. So, um, we'll talk about the game. I know, and all that. And again, disappointing loss, and I don't think anybody expected this to be how this regular season went. But again, I think I'm not saying you should have confidence that this happens, but Purdue goes and wins 4 straight games in March and makes the Final Four. Right, this whole season gets talked about a bit different. They win 6 games and they're heroes forever in West Lafayette. So that's kind of what I got. I don't know if you have anything else, or if now we can transition more into the game.
Yeah, no, I do just want to kind of, like take a step back to before they even set foot on campus, because like I think sometimes we forget, and going into what would have their upcoming freshman year, Purdue landed Trey Kaufman-Renn. I think was Caleb was the year, no, the same year, right? Caleb first and Trey Kaufman-Renn committed, because
Yeah.
yeah, and then Trey redshirted. And then like they landed Fletcher Lawyer, and you're like, okay, like good shooter, and they land Braden. And the conversation the entire off season, and I know Joe, you jumped on the train a little bit faster, maybe than everybody else from a few things that you heard. And eventually it was, kind of end of summer before I understood as well. But like the conversation the entire off season is like, what's Matt Painter doing? Like who are they gonna have as a point guard? Um, Fletcher was like kind of floated as maybe he gets, good minutes, but nobody was talking about those two starting like right off the bat. Nobody was. And nobody was talking about Braden Smith potentially being the all-time career assist leader, Fletcher Lawyer being the greatest, outside shooter that ever went through Purdue. And Painter did say something funny during the speech, because and I bring it up too, that Carson only had 3 years. And Painter made a little glib that the only person not happy about him breaking the record is Carson Edwards, but Carson Edwards got more attempts. I didn't look at career attempts, but when I think about it, like the amount of shots he put up a game, I definitely got more attempts per game. I'm betting his actual attempts he had in 3 years was more than what Fletcher had in 4 years. So a record that stands there, and I just I don't know. I go back 4 years, and like nobody had a clue this is gonna happen. That doesn't change. Like we can still critique things that are happening right now. Their standards come up as play comes up, right? But it's still been an amazing run with two guys that nobody thought was starting going into that year.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point to bring up too, and I think you nailed it. Like it doesn't, obviously the expectations now are different than 4 years ago, but that is where Purdue was at, of just like, hey, what's going to happen? And then they go on this run of 4 really competitive years, a national championship game appearance in there, and one of those, like a national championship game where they just happen to run into a juggernaut, like one of the better teams we've seen of the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years in college basketball. Like that team was every good
Mhm.
enough to win a national championship. Um, So yeah, I think that was very well said and put there. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's cool to see these guys get celebrated because they deserve it. Regardless of it's the outcome of a single game tonight. And I know it's been a struggle the last month and a half, but they still deserve all the celebration and praise in that. And you're hoping that there's a lot more of that to come over the next 30 days, I think 29 days until um, the national championship game. So if you got anything else for senior night, throw it out there. If not, we can jump into the game.
Let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Section 103, quick, and then we'll kind of transition into that. But if you guys did not hear in the last post game show that we did, Section 103 is a brand new apparel company to Purdue. They just recently got licensed to offer Purdue apparel. They've been around with some other colleges prior to this, but just in time for March, new officially licensed Purdue collection from Section 103. It is a founder-led college apparel brand. They design officially licensed gear inspired by each school's traditions. And he travels to each college and university before he puts out an apparel line to try to learn and try to understand their traditions. It's not generic merch, it's built around things that Purdue fans actually care about. So there's concepts on here. If you look in the graphic, like Boiler Up, Mackey, Hail, Hail to Old Purdue. I can tell you, Joe and I both got our shirts last week. Super comfortable shirts. Sure, the hoodies and everything else will be the exact same way. There also will let fans vote on which designs they should print next. So you can give suggestions, offer your vote, and you can get them to print exactly what you want as a fan. So you can go to section103.com, search for the Purdue collection, and use the code in the stands for 10% off of your order. I've talked to several fans that have already put their orders in and are super excited about what they got. Good, high quality stuff offering there.
Yeah, I'm it's starting to get warm out. Well, I think it's supposed to get cold again for a week, but it was like 70 out yesterday, and it was just like, oh yeah, I need one of those polos. It's about to be golf season again. I'm excited, so that's probably gonna be my next purchase. Is I think that for everybody watching, probably that polo on the bottom right, one from the left. I think that's gonna be my next purchase for the Purdue merch. So appreciate them for coming on board, and the work they put in for that, and yeah, being a sponsor of this show. Let's get into the game. Uh, Wisconsin wins 97-93 in a pretty back and forth game. I think Wisconsin's. I'm going to look it up. Their largest lead couldn't have been much more than like 10 or so, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, yeah, 10 with if they were up 59-49, then Purdue goes on a big run, and it basically stayed within 5 points the other entire rest of the way. Purdue shot made 11 threes. I kind of jumping a little bit into the stats, but they made 11 threes. They had 9 more offensive rebounds and 3 more defensive rebounds. They had 1 fewer turnover. They made 14 free throws, and they made 23 twos, and they lost. And like, there's to me 2 aspects of that. One of like, if a team like this Wisconsin team has all the pieces that if everything's clicking, they're just going to score at will, like against this Purdue defense, which is kind of what it is. We'll talk the more schematics and stuff in a second, but on the other side, if Wisconsin didn't just go nuclear from three, like Purdue still wins this, right? Purdue almost just beat a team that made 18 threes. And I know it's almost, and it doesn't count for winning, but more of just like it's unfortunate that we're at the point that Purdue, we're not like overly confident in Purdue of like they can just go out and beat everybody. Like they got to get some bounces their way in a tournament to actually go advance. And I think it also shows why they could lose any game. But when you have this type of offense, like they can just have these nights that just keep them in it, and then the defense just either has to figure something out or at some point, like I don't like my truthful thought on the defense is like at some point you just kind of gotta hope they miss threes. Like we'll talk about it, and that's I know people were yelling and complaining about like not making adjustments, like but Purdue went through like 4 different defensive coverages, and Wisconsin just kind of had an answer for everything. So it's just a tough one because Purdue played more than well enough to win. You just ran into a game where all of your defensive flaws got shown for 40 minutes. And even though everybody was pretty much Superman, it felt like offensively for the most part, just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this Wisconsin team, and I've watched them play quite a bit. Like everybody on here knows, if you watch consistently, that's my son's favorite team, and he lives in Wisconsin. So I tend to watch Wisconsin play quite a bit, just so I can talk to him about it. Plus, covering the Big Ten, and the two games to me is kind of a snapshot of Wisconsin, because this Wisconsin team has obviously had some huge wins during this season. And when they do, they tend to shoot really well from three. But they're only a 35% shooting team from three on the season, which is good, but not great. And they'll have these games where everybody's on fire from outside and they look incredible offensively. And then they'll have some games where they're not. And up at Wisconsin, they shoot 4 of 25. Today, they shoot 18 of 34. Now, I don't know. I know when we did that post game show, Joe, that like we just kind of acknowledged that Wisconsin still got quite a few open looks up there and just didn't hit them. There were some things Purdue did defensively to make it hard, but also Wisconsin just missed looks that they normally hit up there. That's a 16-point win. This one, they didn't miss anything that they normally they normally hit, because they were able to get open looks, and tonight they knocked them down. Their bigs were knocking them down too, and I'm with you. And like, there's a couple of questions that I've already started in the chat a little bit about scheme, and I've had these. I live in Lafayette, Joe, and I frequent places in West Lafayette. So I have conversations every single day about Purdue basketball. And the most common thing is like, why are we playing this scheme, or why are we doing this? And at some point, I think we just have to acknowledge that, like, this is who Purdue is defensively. And you can have a conversation about, does what roster construction need to be different, so you make sure you have certain types of defenders, certain types of athleticisms that can D them up. But we have who we have at this point, and it hasn't really mattered specifically what scheme we've played against certain teams. If their guards can get downhill and get 2 feet in the paint, then that's forces the rotations. It forces help. It forces rotation. And one thing Wisconsin did really good tonight is they just kept skipping that. If the kick out wasn't there immediately, that ball popped around the perimeter. So then Purdue's in their second rotation, third rotation, fourth rotation after help. Eventually, somebody's not going to get out there and they're going to find somebody. And at the end of the day, against teams with really athletic guards, it's been shown on the year that Purdue just really struggles to not get beat at the point of attack, and not let them get into the paint. And you're either giving up a layup or you're giving a three, one of the two. Like, with how you design that defense. And I think I'm with you. We're just at where we're at. And if a team has a really good 3-point shooting night, this team is obviously going to be, you know, I can't even think of the word I'm looking for, but they're going to be vulnerable to a loss.
Yep, and I think that's 100% accurate. And I'm just going to go to the board. I feel like this can kind of help set up the rest of the conversation and walk through at least what I saw in terms of defensive coverage. So starting out in the first half, Purdue was in their normal high hedge, heavy help system. And so what this was doing, and what I thought Boyd especially did such a good job at, is really drawing the big. So X's are offense, O's are defense. There's the high pick and roll right here. As this was usually Boyd, but even like Blackwell, Rhodey a little bit. Also, like, it wasn't just like that Purdue was quick recovering back. It's that, right, the guards wouldn't be able to get back in time. And so this ball handler would just drag this big way over here. And so now you have, after this, right, you basically have here guard trailer, and that big who set the screen popped. And so as this is happening, this guy was weak side because he's here. He's rotating over, and now he's coming over here, right? Because that's his responsibilities to help. And sometimes, like, Wisconsin would have like a cutter right here, right? So you have to kind of help with that. Is since this big it has to be attached because the guard can't get back in time. It's either an easy pick and pop three, or if you shade up a bit, it was a skip pass. And Wisconsin, I mean, they put Blackwell in this weak side corner a ton in that first half, where you get the ball from Boyd to your at any give Blackwell at any given points can be like the single best player on the floor. So you put him here where now if that skip pass happens, you have to rotate out. He can attack a little bit, or he can just knock down threes. If it's just a pick and pop, as you saw, especially early in the game, right? Clough did a good enough job trying to get back. Dudes just made shots and got good looks. And so you're put in this spot of like, okay, well, Wisconsin is hitting everything. They're bigs. I mean, their big shot, I think 8 for 13 in this game from three. And they're good shooting bigs, but like obviously that's still somewhat of an anomaly in terms of their shooting capability. So you start out in that of the normal high hedge, heavy help. Wisconsin's torching it, right? That first half, they took, I believe, 18 threes and 4 twos. 7 free throws also. So, maybe that jumps up to 6 twos or something like that. But then from there, right, what I'm going to talk about now in the second half is, as I draw it, Wisconsin went to something that I was kind of hoping that they did, and it also showed why, like, it's not like it's not necessarily a fix, and they went to drop coverage, and so, well, actually, I take that back. They went high hedge for the most of the first half. They switched everything for like 3 plays, and then got torched. And then they went to this drop coverage where, again, it's a lot of just high
You
ball
mean
screen.
Joe? You mean Purdue, right? You said Wisconsin went to it.
Oh yeah, Purdue defensively. My bad. And so, Purdue defensively, they high hedge, then switched for like 3 plays, and then they went to this drop, which I'll talk about more in a sec here too. And so what drop is, instead of right this big trying to hedge out, it's what it sounds like: dropping back, dropping back, dropping back. And again, Boyd this is where he kind of torched Purdue, is getting downhill. Guard was never able to really like get back in the play, so screener would pop, like CJ Meyer, if Braden was involved, whatever, like would just get caught behind. And so as Boyd is driving here, right, this is that drop coverage that we talked about. It would be what's called like a late switch, where eventually he would just get so deep that Clough would have to take him. CJ would switch out. And so that's the best way to take, because right, the vulnerability of the drop coverage is this pick and pop 3. If your big's back here and they pop, somebody's got to be able to help. So then they late switch. After this happens, you get Boyd on some ISOs. You get Boyd. I mean, Boyd, credit to him, he made 3 or 4 really, really just kind of tough layups right at the end. So there's that aspect. And even in the midst, like those are already like multiple changes. And even with how Purdue was running their weak side defense, I thought, like, say the ball, right, there's like this up here. Like there was times too that basically they would have, I guess it'd be like this. If this was another pick and roll, right, you have your weak side corner guy standing under the rim. And then basically what Purdue would start doing is have him be way over here to help on this drive, if there was. And if the skip pass happened, then they would X out, it's what's called. So he would then come here to close out. He would go here. I'm saying if the skip pass to here happened. So you see this X out right here, then you have help. They didn't start out in that. They went to that probably, I don't know, halfway through the first or something like that, or it might have even been closer to the second half. But like that right there. So then that's where you can get the baseline a little bit. If this closeout isn't quick enough, you can just shoot over the top. Again, there's also always just the threat of, as this is happening, this big getting dragged out in a pick and pop. So would it be great to just be like, oh, here's the simple fix? Like, why didn't Painter do this? And I'm sure some fans will say that, like, just do something else. But like, they tried. And I think it goes back to like the roster construction of at some point you're just going to be limited in what you're going to do when, I think we all acknowledge CJ and like Jakari are very good defenders. I think we also acknowledge there are going to be some limitations. Clough is I honestly thought Clough did pretty good defensively today. But there's some limitations to what he can do. You don't have length to get in gaps or stuff like that. Like, there's just going to be limitations. And honestly, the best stretch Purdue had defensively, to me, was when it was that I think it was the first half, when they're the first run that they kind of went on. And it was just forcing turnovers, and you saw like so much pressure and really pushing Wisconsin out and not letting them get downhill. That's because of the high hedge, and then the pick and pop threes just kind of killed it. So it's one of these things like, I, they're gonna keep trying. They're gonna keep working on stuff and figuring things out. There's just at some point some limitations, because then like, right, I remember after the Illinois game, people are like, Joe, how can you say like that was like not a bad process defensively? Like, look at what they did. Well, This is a game where Purdue, like, they did the exact opposite of what they did in the Illinois game. And guess what? They still just got torched. And when teams are just going to make that many threes, and again, like, I don't even, like, definitely not saying this was a good defensive performance, but like, given what they are capable of, they're right away. They're just going to be like, all right, can these bigs today, who are quality shooters, can they get going? Can they knock down pick and pop threes? They did. All right. Now we have to figure out how to take that away. Okay. Well, now they're just skipping to the corner. Okay. Well, now we have to figure out how to take that away because it drives. And then Boyd was getting downhill. And it's just, it's unfortunate that that's where they're at. Like, I, I mean, also, I'm not paid to figure this out, but like, I don't know. I don't know really what else there is to do. You can maybe try switching more. Like, I mean, I don't. Maybe you just try zone just for randomness, just to see. But then Wisconsin was drilling every three in sight anyway, so like I don't know if that would have helped. I don't know. That was my long-winded rant. I know I said it would set up the conversation. I feel like I just stole it. So Craig, just talk for like 7 minutes. I don't know. Do what you want, but
No.
whatever you got, go for it.
And we've been here like 4 hours already. I'm not talking for 7 minutes in any one stretch. There will be no brags like rant or anything today for me, because I know we're both tired and want to make sure we cover everything, but also kind of keep this a little bit tight. So, do want to bring well, first of all, when you were talking about that stretch where Purdue was forcing a lot of turnovers, that was like right as we reached 10 minutes. It started kind of before we got to the second 10, but most of that spilled over into the beginning of the second 10 minutes in the first half. But that we're talking about Boyd hitting some tough layups down the stretch. That play where Fletcher gets his hands on the ball, Clough gets his hands on the ball. Somehow he recovers it, dips up underneath Clough just enough to like throw it up 3 feet on the backboard at a really like weird angle, and it dropped in. That's when I was like, okay, it's like Wisconsin's winning this game because they did everything they possibly could. That was obviously getting towards the end of the game as it was, but just what it was. And I thought Clough had pretty active hands multiple times in this game as well. I didn't think Clough was bad defensively in this one, but there was a question that's come up quite a few times in the chat before the show even started, and I think it kind of stems off some things the announcers were saying on TV during the game, and that's the fact that they were saying that they needed to force Boyd to go right versus left. Is that though? Does that play against Purdue's principle of trying to force drives baseline and to help primarily, or is there any other reason that you could see this that they weren't trying to do that? Because like you have to feel if they wanted CJ to do that, that would have been on the scout, and like CJ would have implemented that. He's not going to just make that mental mistake that many times in a game.
Yeah, just thinking through, and thinking through this on the fly, truthfully. So take what I say maybe with a grain of salt. But like my initial thought is like it's in theory I think is a great idea. Now putting it into practice with this roster, I like I don't like I probably could have. That's probably is something they could have tried more, especially as they were going. The only time that would have really worked is when they were going drop coverage. Because when it was the high hedge, like it just and even against drops, like what that opens up to me is it's much easier pick and pop three. Of if you're forcing him one direction, you're already giving up multiple steps. Boyd is so quick that basically that's just going to be like a switch, and where you get then Clough switched onto Boyd is my thought. Like that's if I'm Wisconsin, I think that's how I would have processed it and gone through it. Is like, okay, they're gonna force Boyd right. Sure, Boyd just drive like 3 steps, get Clough switched onto you, back it out, and then reset. Um, and then against that was when they're in drop specifically. When it's in high hedge in the first half, like if you force him to the right again, you're giving up a couple steps, but then you have two on the ball. Like that maybe could have worked more, but then it's almost like at that point, like if that's the case, you're basically just have no chance of the guard getting back because they're already playing from behind to begin with. But also, like, I don't know the stats on what Boyd is doing as a facilitator when he goes rights compared to left. So, like, if there would be something there to be like, hey, he's like just actually not that great of a facilitator going right compared to left, like that is definitely a possible thing then of just maybe you force him to have to make these skip passes where he has to contort his body weird. like because he wants to throw these things left-handed. So that's just kind of my thought. Like, could it have worked? Yes. Is it is it like a surefire, like, oh, Purdue would have stopped Wisconsin? Like, I don't think so. I think Wisconsin had enough going, they would have figured out counters, but I think that's fair to bring up as something that Purdue could have at least tried a bit more.
All right. So if we're going to summarize our big takeaways from this game and then kind of roll into some player breakdowns, because you kind of already summarized the team stats and you're opening, we can just go straight to player breakdowns unless you want to. But summarize big takeaways. Wisconsin hit 18 threes. At Wisconsin, they hit 4. Purdue did a lot of really good things offensively in this one. Purdue really struggled defensively in this one. And we think it probably has more to do with just personnel limitations than any scheme fixes because they tried multiple schemes and Wisconsin torched all 4 schemes that they tried.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah, it, I don't want to just say like, oh, Wisconsin just doesn't shoot lights out and Purdue wins, because the Purdue's offense was equally as incredible, because part of why Wisconsin shot so well is they're getting so many open looks. But like, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that I have all the right, like, maybe there is something I'm missing, that like, oh, they could have done this, and maybe that could have actually slowed them down. I'm willing to admit that part, but like, from the way I watched the game and understood, like, that would you summarize my takeaway for sure.
Okay, perfect. We want to go into player breakdowns.
Sure. I'll throw up rotation really quick first. I know people
Oh, yeah.
just like being able to see it. Things to call out in this one: CJ plays 20. I have him at 28. I think stats have him at the box score has him at 29. Right. He's getting a lot more run. Jakari doesn't play the second half at all, in part because Lawyer and Braden play all 20 minutes, and they both play 37 minutes. Jacobson played a bit more because of foul trouble. Other than that, I think everything's pretty standard. Purdue closed with the lineup they had probably the most success with. I don't think, other than Jakari not playing the second half, which I think inherently makes sense given Meyer had a good stretch. Jakari struggled in the first half. Obviously, CJ, even if I know CJ struggled some today, like, he's seeming to become more the guy. Um, nothing crazy to take away there. We can jump over then to some of the player breakdowns, and I think we did a good job talking through the defense, and right, that's the big thing. We're gonna read through a lot of these box scores, and it's like, oh man, that was a really impressive night. And
Right.
start with Fletcher Lawyer. 23 points on 8 of 13 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3, knocked down a free throw, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, no turnovers in 36 minutes of play. Um, I mean, yeah, Purdue loses by 13 if Lawyer isn't Lawyer today. Like, even in the first half, like, the only reason it was, I don't know, 5, 6, I think it was 5 points at half. It's like the biggest reason why it was not 12 was Lawyer just was on one, simply put. And even the second half, he had one of the most complete stretches I've seen from him, maybe in his entire career, where he gets, he posts the ball free, dives on the floor to get the steal, immediately gets an and one in transition, and then like I don't know if it was the next offensive possession or 2 offensive possessions later, he knocks down a corner 3 off of a CJ making a very good extra pass, then immediately comes down and draws a charge from Blackwell. I like this is the point where I think we've talked through a lot, like, all the negative of the defense, because that when you go to the offensive side of the ball, there's some small things to nitpick, but in large part it was Purdue being incredibly impressive, and to me that started with what Fletch was able to do today.
No, I thought this was Fletcher's best game of the year, and I was trying to rack through them in my head real quick. I didn't go to Sports Reference and pull up and look back through his stats from every single game. He might have scored more on a specific game this year, but I thought this was his most complete game in terms of an all-around aspect of what he did on both ends of the floor. When we did start, forcing some turnovers on him, Fletch was a piece of that. I think he finished with 2 steals
Yeah.
today. He also gets that charge. He was diving on the floor. He was getting in the mix. You could tell he really wanted to go out with a win here. Obviously, the shooting was great. Had I think another play where he gets in and drops off a nice little pass. So I thought Fletcher was really good in this one, especially offensively, obviously, and played with a lot of fight and played with a lot of energy.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And then, yeah, probably. I mean, probably his best game of the year. I guess he had. I mean, he had 29 against Maryland. When incorporating like stakes in that, I think this was
Right.
probably definitely his best game of the season. And hopefully, he can just go on a heater come March. Got to work through the big three here. We'll go head over to Braden Smith, who ended the game. It's hard to read, so I have to pull up a different box score. There we go. 20 points, 9 assists, 3 rebounds. He was 6 of 11 from two, 2 of 7 from three, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 2 steals and a block. This was a game I just thought he was honest offensively, like was in pretty much complete control, like for most of the game. Misses a three or two maybe that you would like to have seen him make, but other than that, it's like thought he was making the right reads. I honestly thought Purdue could have gone to him a little bit more in pick and roll, just like in the second half. Although they definitely closed with going to him a bunch. I don't know. He took what the defense gave. At times it was just simply walking into a very easy pull up. At times it was throwing a lob to Jacobson or getting guys open on the perimeter or hitting TKR. Like I just thought it's crazy that we're at the point where Braden can kind of just walk into a 20.9 assist game and it didn't feel like it was anything special, but like objectively still a very, very good offensive game from him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you're looking at that, the only thing you can maybe nitpick a little bit on is, 20 points on 18 shots, right? Like you probably want a little bit more efficiency from that standpoint, but thought it was a pretty solid game on that end of the court for him. He also has that block of Blackwell in the corner where he absolutely stuffs him on that 3-point attempt that at the time looked like it might be important to pulling out a win in this one, but gets up to 9 assists. I don't remember what he finished the first half with, but I don't think he was near as like I think there was disproportionately more in the second half, if I remember right. But it's unfortunate as Purdue was coming back. Him and Trey both kind of had a good look in that stretch there where he, Braden got kind of like a little 15-footer and Trey had one that was about 4 or 5 foot out, and both of them just kind of put it up a little bit too hard in that moment,
Yep.
that could have turned things a little bit. So you hated to see it in that way, especially in the last game at Mackey. But I mean, I'm with you. Like offense, we've already called out all the defensive negatives, like you said, in a lot of detail, and I feel like we're just going to read through this list in a loss and be like, no, he was really good offensively. He was really good offensively, just one after the other. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue put up. I'll pull up what Stat Broadcast has instead. 1.37 points per possession for Purdue. Like that's absurd. This was Purdue's fourth best offensive game of the entire season per KenPom. Like when we talk through the defense already, and there's probably is some individuality stuff that maybe we could pick on a little bit, like, but also, or even like, there's also some good plays for like one that I remember specifically is when uh, from Braden, like Purdue's it's in the second half when they're in the drop coverage. Wisconsin tries to counter with Spain pick and roll, which Spain is where you set a back screen on the screener. So they had Blackwell setting a back screen on Clough just to try to like bottle him up and allow Boyd to get downhill. And Braden from the backside smartly switches everything. I think forces a steal from Boyd or something like that. Like you can even pull out some individual defensive plays that are like, oh, those were good too. So yeah, a lot of this like when you put up 93 points in on like what how many possessions were there in this 66 possessions, you should win, you should just win, like that should just be a win 99% of the time, and it happened to be the 1% because Wisconsin was able to make everything because Purdue was giving everything up, and it all works hand in hand, right? Rounding out the big three, TKR, 17 points, 7 of 14 from the field, 3 of 5 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, and a block in 23 minutes. I've gone first for the other two, so I'll throw it to you first for this one, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the stat line with Trey, it looks pretty solid. Like I said, 7 of 14, 17 points, 50% shooting, 3 of 5 from the line. I think he is just kind of who he is from a free throw shooting standpoint. Some nights are a little bit better, some nights are a little bit worse, and it's going to end up somewhere around 70%, over the course of the season for him. I thought there were some opportunities he had to find somebody in this one where he forced a couple up, just like really, really tried to initiate hard contact. And he's scored on some of those to his credit. Like he 100% did. But then there were some times where it ended up being a really awkward shot that kind of comes at a weird angle that doesn't drop down or smokes off the back of the rim or whatever. But um, I thought there were honestly some other games this year where, from a facilitating standpoint, when help did come, that he found guys maybe a little bit better. Still ends up with 3 assists in this one. So, to me, it's I don't know, on that end of the court anyway. I guess to me, it's like a B- game from Trey. Am I being too hard on him?
No, I mean I would have said yeah, like C plus, C something. Like I think he was still right in a C game for TKR is better than 95% of college basketball players or whatever, right? Like I do agree. I think you said it well of like he was still able to put the ball in the hoop. There were just some like some different spots where it's like you live with it because he's proven he can make them, but it did feel like in the moment specifically, like kind of forced some tough ones that maybe could have gone elsewhere, especially when you have a guy like Lawyer going off or Brain was kind of picking things apart. Um, there felt like there could have been other opportunities, but at the same time, you're not gonna like uh be overly upset about 17 points on 50% shooting and 3 assists and 3 turnovers. Like not his best work, definitely not his worst work, and yeah, just kind of a fine, good enough game overall. I think he would probably like a couple of those back, obviously. Like really the only critique, I don't know critique, but like gripe I guess I had with the offense was like, especially later in the second half, it felt like they forced it into him a little bit, into TKR. I mean, and again, you have to live with your guy, so I understand it's just one of those where I thought Braden was really able to command the game and probably would have liked to see him get a little bit more. But at the same time, like I don't like you understand why the ball's going to TKR. If he's going to get one-on-one coverage, you're just guaranteed to pretty much at worst get like a decent look, and sometimes that's also pretty valuable. So, you got anything else in TKR?
I mean, the only thing I would say, I don't mind him playing through him. I don't mind him going inside out that way. It's just the ball's got to come out if you don't have the right look and you got to on the ball down there.
Yep, yep, for sure. Let's go to Clough then, who I honestly like in terms of two-way play. I thought was probably the best player Purdue had today. 10 points, 8 rebounds, 3 of them being offensive, 2 assists. Did have 2 turnovers, but also 3 blocks in 27 minutes of play. We talked through a lot of the defensive stuff already. If you have anything to add on to that, go for it. But I'll throw it to you anyways, just for your thoughts on Clough.
No, just my thought as I was thinking through, how we're going to talk about this post game, that for me, if we had to assign a defensive MVP in a game where we give up 97 points, it was going to be Clough, without a doubt. I thought he recovered fairly well, for what he was asked to do. I thought he had active hands, just kind of getting his hand on the ball as dribblers were trying to attack the paint a few different times. I think he has two of those blocks are chase down blocks, I think, on
Yeah.
smaller guards that were trying to go up for layups. 8 rebounds, 10 points on 3 or 4 shooting, goes 4 or 5 from the free throw line. I know he misses one down the stretch, right? That you really hope he hits. Him and Trey both missed one down the stretch there. But overall, I thought it was a nice way for Oscar to kind of go out on his year. And obviously, something could change in the court cases, but the court cases that have been ruled on so far haven't gone in favor for the way that it needed to for Clough to potentially come back another year. So going through senior night tonight, I'm guessing their thought process is that it's probably over for him. Um, but brought a lot to this team from a rebounding standpoint. It's not been the most consistent thing throughout the year, and I'm sure we'll kind of have a wrap up on the entire year when it's all done. But I think still, this is kind of what we thought Clough could be. Was what he did tonight. Maybe be a 10-point type of game guy. Um, Pick up 7 to 10 rebounds and try to provide some good defense. Like I said, when we talked about in the offseason, I think one of the assistants said he was rated as, one of the highest bigs from, playing in that hedge defense, because they break it down that much that around the country last year, he was supposed to be one of the best at that. I don't know that it's completely played out that way with the talent level increasing as he moved up, but nonetheless, Still done a fairly good job of it.
Yeah, I thought Clough did what he needed to do today. And again, there's just some things with how the defense works that right he has to recover 10 feet to try to close out on a shooter. And like it's not that he isn't trying. You could argue maybe he shouldn't have be as much in an as high of a hedge, maybe. Like that would be kind of the other thing is maybe it's a little bit softer hedge and quickly able to recover, but like I thought he moved well. I thought he adapted to what was thrown at him. Thought he battled on the boards, did well in the interior. Just right, one of those games where hey, Purdue gets beat. Like I think in general, I would say this game in Illinois specifically, were just like Purdue got beat. Like some of the other games, I would say like Purdue, like the UCLA game, the Indiana game, like Purdue lost those games. This like we're just like they weren't at the level they needed to be. This one was more of just like, yeah, Wisconsin just beat them because they had every counter that they needed. Probably go a little bit quicker through some of the other guys, although some of the
Mhm.
bench players to talk about for a sec. CJ, after having a huge performance, obviously against Northwestern, and the biggest reason why Purdue was able to win, doesn't have the best time shooting the ball. 2 of 7 from the field, 5 points, 1 of 3 from three. Did have 5 rebounds and was very, very active on the glass and an assist. Talk through some of the defensive stuff. Like obviously he's doing what he can, and it's not an easy task to guard Boyd and Blackwell. Obviously, I thought he struggled a little bit, but right, you're not going to be mad at CJ for taking 7 shots. Sometimes he's going to go 7 of 7. Sometimes he's going to go 2 for 7. He was aggressive getting to his looks, which was, I think, a positive sign, especially early on. Just one of those things where the ball doesn't go in the hoop and it happens.
Yeah, those first 4 shot attempts came pretty quick, and then the last 3, I think, were all kickouts to him for 3. Probably didn't make the right decision, not giving the ball up in fast break on transition where I think he got blocked by all 3 guys at the same time. Like, probably wants that decision back, but, was being aggressive, was attacking. I really think because of the way Purdue has to win in the NCAA tournament, in my mind, when they get to the better competition, which is just going to be being one of the best offensive teams in the country. I think you need him to be aggressive. It appears, anyway, from a minutes basis over the last few games here, that maybe Purdue's starting to tighten up rotation just a little bit in terms of minute distribution, and that he's getting more of those minutes, and see if that continues down the stretch. But I think of the better defensive, I guess we're only talking about 2 guys there, so really with CJ and Jakari, but I think he just brings a little bit more offensively. So like that he's being aggressive, like that he's getting some more minutes out there as well. I thought that pass to Lawyer in the corner was great because like he just it was immediate and right away. That was a big moment in the game at the time, and I don't know how long that ball was in his hands, but it couldn't have been more than about a half a second to just rifle it over and find Lawyer in the corner there for a nice assist. But like you said, I thought he was really, really active, rebounding several of those. At least 2 of those were offensive today. So, yeah, just solid, not great, not terrible CJ performance. And you wish he could have be a just flat out stopper. But like we've talked about multiple times, that think CJ is a good defender, but don't know that he's, no Gel Eastern, Eric Hunter, in terms of having a little bit more length and being able to just be like, I can go one on one and stop guys at times that are as good as Boyd or Blackwell.
Yeah, especially as quick because I think we've
Yeah.
talked about it. Like CJ, when he guards up a little bit and takes like an actual bigger guard, like that's when he's I think just at his best, and that's where he can be one of the best defenders. But he still also has 2 years or more, maybe 3 years by the time he's a senior, right? With the potential 5-year eligibility, like he can still improve in those areas. And but yeah, like I think also like you said, for Purdue to make a deep run, there's probably going to be at least like if Purdue's going to make a Final Four, right? There's 4 games in a row that they have to win. Probably at least one of those has to be somewhat of a CJ game of just like he gets 18 points, knocks down 4 threes, good defense, and he's more than capable of doing that. So I also agree, like it's probably good that the minutes are starting to go to him, and just what he could do with the quickness, decisiveness, obviously shooting, defense, etc. So let's get into the bench players. We'll just kind of let's just go down how they're listed. Start with Daniel Jacobson, who ended with 7 points on 2 of 2 shooting, 3 of 4 free throws, 5 rebounds, 3 of them offensive, 2 fouls in 13 minutes. I'll throw it to you first for your thoughts on Jacobson in this one.
Well, I thought this was another one of those games for me with Jacobson where like it was a little bit of a tale of two halves for me. Um, I'm on a Greg Waddell tweeted something here. In the first half, Jacobson played 13 defensive possessions for Purdue. Wisconsin scored on 11 straight possessions, with Jacobson on the floor totaling 28 points in that span, 2.5 points per possession, before two late stops. So, like, defensively, at least when he was on the floor in the first half, I thought we struggled. Um, Not saying that's completely on him because then you've got some, other bench guys that are in there at that time too. So can't completely put that on him. It did feel like just the rotations weren't quite as fast or as crisp or whatever when he was out there. And then, well, when he kind of got ISO'd onto a guard, they tended to get away with a little bit more. But I thought in the second half, like he did some nice things offensively. I think it was no, was it in the first half or the second half that alley oop lob comes?
First half. It was pretty early in his
First half.
stints, I think.
Yeah. Second half though, he gets that post entry and shoots a nice little hook shot. Goes to the free throw line, knocks down 3 out of 4 from that standpoint. Honestly, I didn't think he stood out as big in terms of a defensive liability in the second half relative to the first. Maybe that's because they went drop when he
That's
was.
where that's where I was getting is
Yep.
like
Yep.
for the people and obviously Jacobson has struggled lately. I'm not saying Jacobson was perfect defensively in the second half, and he let up the one pick and pop three where it's just like just close out with your hands up, please, especially when the guy's already made like five threes. But like that, Jacobson is just not a hedge pick. He's just not, and that's not even like a fault to him. Like that's like saying Edie isn't a hedge pick. Like it's just they're not built that way. Where when you saw that second half the drop, like he did a great job. I think twice forcing like tough Boyd floaters or pull ups over his outstretched arm that miss. Like that's where he's more comfortable. And then the second half, I thought he was. I'm not gonna say like he was awesome, but I thought he was pretty good. In the first half, I struggles a bit, but like I really just do think if Purdue goes back to more of a drop coverage with him, especially this is talking a little bit more long term, especially like next year and that, like I think there's still a lot to like of what he can become. I just think with what they're asking him, I assume they're asking him to do it because that's what like Clough does, and like you don't necessarily want to have just two distinct coverages based on what Big's in, I guess, like just for the rest of the players in the rotations. But looking future, like when he's in that drop, like that's where he can be just so elite, like such an elite defender. Like you know, when he was in that drop, Boyd just wasn't getting to the rim really. Now, it wasn't as big of a sample size. What Jacobson only played like 4 minutes in the second half, so maybe if he kept playing, Boyd would have just got switches and attacked. Like, but I thought like that was going to be the big point I brought up. It's just I thought he looked so much more comfortable in that, and like oh. When he plays the coverage that's probably best suited for him, like he still looks like he's got a lot of upside. So that's what I wanted to bring up with him. Anything else on Jacobson?
Nope.
Um, do we have another ad read?
We did. Let's do the other two players, and we'll do the ad read in between that and going to reading started comments.
All right, let's do it. Obermeyer, 7 points, 3-7 from the field, 1 of 4 from three, an assist, no turnovers, did have two fouls. I thought the first half he kind of just looked out of it, honestly. Like I feel like I'm used to Meyer just like you just this ball of energy and he's gonna make plays. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but he's just gonna make stuff happen. I thought it just wasn't there. But then the second half, I thought he settled in. Doesn't shoot awesome from the floor, all right, and he misses a couple open threes, and he probably forces one in the second half that you're like, maybe don't put that one up, but it still also got to his mid range a couple times to knock down a good pull. I think it was a good pull up three, if that I remember. No, it was a catch and shoot three off of kick out, I think, but I don't know. I really just thought like I thought the first half he just looked out of it, and then the second half he kind of calmed down a bit and wasn't awesome, but definitely wasn't bad in my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously he gets on that stretch where because he dribbles into a mid range and he hits a three. I think yeah, if it wasn't, I think it was on back to back plays. If not, it was
Yeah,
in relatively close succession. But then you saw a little bit of that freshman like getting a little too high on yourself, right? And tries to kind of go on his own, misses a shot. I think the offensive rebound comes right back out to him, and then he tries like a 25, 26 footer right after that and misses that one badly. So
Yep.
I thought there were some good moments from him. Obviously, a freshman and gonna have some of those moments along the way as he tries to figure out his role. But I think we still are seeing him trend upward over the last month, which I know everybody's kind of on pins and needles about what March is actually going to look like. But I think him trending upside is going to be important if Purdue does have any chance of making a deeper run. So, Jack Benner, Joe.
Yep. Better in this one, 4 points. I just skipped over him, even though I said I was going to read down through. 4 points, 1 of 2 from three, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, a turnover, a steal. Made the one really bad pass on the trying to skip it over the top of the defense. But I think in general, again, you just see, okay, he can be such a good connecting piece for this team. He's gonna fight defensively. I think today showed a little bit of um I think he can be a fine defender. I think today showed a little bit of why he's. I think at times people can overhype the defense a little bit. It's like once he got switched onto a guard, it was kind of cooked. And honestly, Purdue had to like even when he got in, like I don't know if it felt like Purdue wasn't on the same page for what he was going to do, whether it be in that high hedge or just switch everything. And they got caught a little bit. So I think it showed some of the holes defensively, but offensively, I mean, knocks down a three, 2 assists. The connecting is just there. Where if he's going to get the kick out, like if he doesn't have a shot, he's going to drive and maintain the advantage, and that's a really important aspect for a player like him. So that's kind of all I got.
Yeah, and the one assist comes off of an offensive rebound and he kicks out and finds Meyer like right away. Like he knew where his eyes were supposed to go right away. There was no hesitation when he came down with it. That other assist comes on a pass and he just kind of cuts from up top on a closeout, attacks the closeout, gets into the paint, and then finds a shooter for three again on that one, I believe. So like the positives are there. It's going to be really interesting as we think long term, whether he's a four or whether he's a three. But the positives are there, the ability to put it on the court and attack a little bit, even if it's not going to be like him trying to get all the way to the rim, just him forcing the defense to rotate a little bit, right? And find open guys is certainly a positive. I I wrote down a couple of defensive possessions where I thought he got beat or he blew a defensive assignment. He does force that turnover in the corner off an inbound as well in this game. But Joe, for me, like as I think back through this game and as I was watching it in real time, I thought our best defensive stretches, just because of our ability to guard more outside and match up on guards better, were when Benter was in the game. Like, am I imagining that, or do the numbers back that up?
Um, I would have to fully go back and look at I'm just trying to kind of look through the notes and see extending out. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read through my notes to see exactly when
Yeah,
the lineup was
I
happening.
I feel I
I th- I think it could be possible. I also just think when I'm thinking back through, I don't remember. I mean, I guess I don't remember Benner being involved much in the defense in what I'm thinking of, but maybe a little bit. I don't know. And I'm not saying Benner's like a terrible defender. I just think there are going to be limitations. I think he's a really good off-ball defender. I think he's a really good
yeah.
off-ball defender. He just
So
knows
so
where to
that's
be.
right, and that's what I'm thinking. There is it wasn't more that he made some great defensive one-on-one play, but like somebody doesn't get open to start with to get the look or whatever,
Yeah.
because of what he was doing out there. I did feel like I'm wrong on this too, but I did feel like he got more run with Clough than rather than Jacobson, or Trey at the four spot today than in other recent games.
Yeah, his first stint was pretty much all with Clough. And then from there it was more or less 50-50 between Clough and Jacobson the rest of the way,
Gotcha.
which is still more than usual. Last guy, I don't know if you even have anything. Jakari only plays 4 minutes in this one. Has a turnover in which I think it was just where he was indecisive, and I think that's at times just been his biggest kind of flaw is can just become really indecisive with what he wants to do. We know the shooting is streaky in a game where you're trusting CJ more and more. Meyer had a good stretch. It's just one of those, the minutes just don't go to Jakari, and maybe he is going to be squeezed a bit from the rotation. Maybe there's going to be a game where he still plays 20 minutes and knockdowns 3 threes, but he definitely feels kind of to be more of like the ninth man now. Um, do you have anything? He played 4 minutes.
Yeah, I know. He played 4 minutes, and I think there was one stat on the stat line. So I don't really have anything to add other than I think Chikari is going to be fine. Just may get squeezed out a little bit here as Purdue tries to maximize their opportunities. Let's go here from our second sponsor before we close this show out with starred comments. Oh, man, that's worse than trying to talk when the mute button was on because I clicked the picture
The
instead of the
photo.
video. All right, I'm doing it right this time, guys. Here we go. Real guy.
Purdue graduate and Lafayette resident since 1999, Michelle Rainey has 10 years of full-time experience working with buyers, sellers, and real estate investors in Greater Lafayette and many surrounding areas. If you need to buy, sell, invest, or even relocate, call Michelle to schedule an appointment to see how she can help you accomplish the real estate goals you have. Your home or creating an investment portfolio will likely be the most expensive transactions of your life. Have the experts with Rainey and Company at Keller Williams on your side and let Michelle navigate this process to make it easy. Call or text 765-532-3415. Again, that's Michelle Rainey with Rainey and Company at Keller Williams at 765-532-3415.
Yeah, and that is our, I believe, our last ad read from BJ and Michelle, at least of the regular season for sure. But in terms of this year, so do want to give a shout out and thank you again, Michelle and BJ, both at Keller Williams with Rainey Company, for all your support this year. And if you have realty needs in the area, reach out to one of those too. If anybody's looking to advertise, we don't have anything lined up for the postseason yet. So if you got a business the Boiler fans would benefit from, feel free to reach out.
Yep, definitely. I do appreciate them sponsoring this show and being with us for the last couple of years at this point now. Um, yeah, so we'll get into start comments. I'll go through them. I'll read them. You jump in with whatever thoughts you have, and we'll kind of go from there. Do appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure to hit the like button on your way, not on the way out because we still got a few minutes left, but make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. Ab 1973 says thoughts on starting Omar and bringing Clough off the bench. Clough has been solid, but having him and TKR on the floor at the same time just puts us in bad matchups defensively. I don't know if it solves the defensive issues, to be honest, and probably could make them worse because then you're playing really, really, really small. Like, I don't think there needs to be a starting lineup change. I don't even know what you would do at this point. It's just one of those you have limitations defensively. You're doing your best to try to work around them, and it just sometimes this is going to be the result. It's kind of what happens today. I don't know. Did you have thoughts?
No, I just didn't. I think defensively that just doesn't work. I think it puts them in more of a bind. See what you're saying there, just more shooting and more facilitating, but size wise too. If you were gonna make the argument there, I think it would have to be Benner. But really, the only starting lineup that I mused about change wise was like if you're trying to just maximize offensive efficiency. This was when Jakari was still coming in at the first timeout, which hasn't happened in the last couple of games. But maybe you flip that, like minutes stay the same for CJ so that he's playing 30 minutes a game, but you flip that so that like you just have more offensive firepower on the court when you're in that second and third set of substitutions coming in. Um, but if CJ is going to play 30 minutes a game, I don't know that it matters because
Yeah.
wouldn't be really relevant anymore.
Yep, I think that is very fair. Schmitty 7264 says, "What can be done on the defensive end at this point? 6 straight games of teams shooting greater than 50% from the field. Do we just need to score 100 tonight to win? 93 at home wasn't enough." Like, I think you just kind of have to outscore teams, and you hope that you don't run into a game like today where a team is just absolutely going insane. Um, like, is there stuff they can clean up defensively? Yeah. should we expect that from this roster and this team? Like, I don't think so. I think it's just this Purdue offense can on any given night be like the best offense in basically college basketball history. Tough that they're going to have to do it for multiple games in a row, probably, but I think that's just kind of where we're at least in my thoughts.
Yeah,
So,
I'm with you.
Heather Garrison said Carson had 763 3-point attempts to Fletcher's 694. So that is interesting. Even though Carson played one for a year, still ends up with quick math 69 more 3-point attempts in his career. So shout out Fletch for breaking the all-time 3-point record today. And almost kind of willing Purdue to a win. SLK Boiler says, is IU in the tourney or not? They're right on the bubble. Today's loss definitely doesn't help. They probably have to go win one or two, at least one, if not two, in the Big Ten tournaments. But they kind of feel like where Ohio State was last year, where it's like, in theory they can, but some things really got to break their way for over the Big Ten tournament and with bid stealers.
Yeah, and I'm sure sometime next week or after the Big Ten tournament, one of the two, probably might do something early next week before the Big Ten tournament starts with Tonsoni from Delphi Bracketology. Go check them out. One of the best bracketologists in the country, and he utilizes high school students to help him in that process. So it's a cool deal. But probably do a little bit of a look ahead at where teams might end up seed line wise, location wise, and what needs to be done if they're going to improve any of those things. That one that you skipped, I did want to talk about. I want to address that.
I was coming back to it. I
Okay.
was going to do this one first. Salty B 88's a question for Bits. Isn't it at least worth trying a full court press or trap to disrupt Wisconsin? Like it couldn't hurt. I'm not going to say it would help because Purdue doesn't really have the length or athleticism to, in my mind, be effective at it. But I can't sit here and be like, no, they shouldn't do it when they gave up 97 points not doing it. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like the zone question of, well, like, why doesn't Purdue zone? Well, you need length on the perimeter to zone, and Purdue doesn't have length on the perimeter. Hey, why don't you press? To me, you need a lot of you press when you are the team that has more athleticism and has length, that can disrupt the passing and everything else. So for me, I just don't see it. I just don't see it being effective with the roster that we have.
Agreed. Then we'll get to this one from Michelle Brad. Said Wisconsin players were classless after the game. I know you'll have thoughts. I just want to jump in first. I got nothing wrong with what Wisconsin did. I know Purdue fans were very emotional at that point. So I thought Purdue fans were in the wrong, truthfully, with what I was kind of hearing and seeing. Like you go on the road, you get a good big time win in a game where I'm sure they are being yelled at the entire game. You don't even know what they hear from the bench. I got no issue with them kind of going to the crowd, and also people yelling for them to like get off the court. Like they were doing a post game interview. I don't know. Like I could be in minority with those thoughts. I don't know, but that's kind of the way I saw it. Is just like Wisconsin did nothing wrong, and I honestly thought it was a pretty bad moment for Purdue fans.
Yeah, we're not low enough to necessarily hear anything said. So if something was said that we didn't hear, obviously we can't comment on that. But like, no obscene gestures, nobody getting physical with a fan or other players or coaches or bad handshake line or anything else. Just some guys waving at the opposing crowd. And we've seen, after big shots or big wins, the Purdue players do similar things over the years. So I've got no issue with it whatsoever. And like, they won in Mackey, man. They get their moment, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty soft moment from the Purdue fans, truthfully. So, anything else on that from you?
Nope.
Jason Pugh, 9.99 super chat said, "Thanks for the show as always, guys. Just the best Purdue coverage. Everyone, please hit the like button." Listen to them. Hit the like button. Linda Jackson, my mother, also says, "Please hit the like button and subscribe." Boiler up. So, listen to them. Listen to Mama Jackson. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button on the way out. Do appreciate everybody tuning in. Obviously, I think it's fair for fans to be frustrated with the I don't know if performance, but the outcomes of some of these games. it's a whole new season now, and we'll, like you said, we'll talk about it going forward. Olivia S 1999 super chats and thanks for a great regular season bits. Thank you, seniors. And again, on senior night, I know not the outcome that anybody wanted, especially like if there were 3 people in the building that wanted this win more than anybody, it was probably Braden, Fletch, and TKR. Um, I don't think it's fair to question their hearts or effort or anything like that. You get beat. We see how this team is vulnerable. Wisconsin was able to have one of those games where they attacked them in every way and really showed it. And even then, Purdue still was right there to have a chance to go win this game. So we'll have plenty of coverage for the postseason. Big Ten tournament next week. I believe all 3 of us, you and I and Braggs will be in Chicago at some point covering the Purdue games, Big Ten tournaments. And then obviously Selection Sunday is 8 days away. The first round of March Madness starts in 12 days, if my math's right, something like that. So we'll have a lot of stuff. I don't know our exact schedule, but just be on the lookout. Subscribe if you hit the like button and you turn on bell notifications. Then you'll get notified when we do go live. Follow us on Twitter at Boilers and Stands. Follow Craig at Twitter at CraigBowers34, both on his account and also Boilers in the Stands. They'll keep you up to date on everything Purdue and all of that. So yeah, I don't. Do you got anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
Yep. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you whenever the next show is, sometime next week before the Big Ten tournament.